So, Michaela,
Yes.
cat person or dog person, and why?
Oh, cat person. I've got 3 cats. Because they're cute and furry and, they cuddle up to me and love me. Yeah.
Sounds
I've
like
got
a wife.
3. So the first cat was Mudder, which was short for... I'll let our
We can
listeners...
imagine. Anyway.
Yeah, and then Yoda.
Yoda.
Yeah.
Was it one of those hairless things?
No, it had heaps of hair.
Yeah.
And it was just very wise, it had a wise face. And then Chopper came along. But unfortunately, Chopper didn't live very long. And we're not sure what happened, but...
He went to jail.
And the latest member is Jingles. Jing for short.
Jingles.
Got it at Christmas. Jingles.
Oh, have you at least got a bell on its collar?
I have. It's the only one that has.
Ah, dear.
Welcome to the Tradies Business Show, helping you get off the tools and into true business ownership, so you can spend more time doing the things that matter most. Now, here are your hosts, Warwick Bidwell and Michaela Clark.
Welcome to another episode of the Tradies Business Show, a podcast. I'm Michaela Clark from Tradies VA.
And I'm Warwick Bidwell from the Tradies Business Toolkit. G'day, listeners.
Morning. And we are in the city this morning and got our good gear on again. We're out and about
Got the
today.
good clobber on.
It is, and we're at Construction Skills Queensland, and they have a lot to offer the industry as far as training, reports and advice. So really a great interview about the future trends of the industry and the growth areas, and really taking a long-term strategic look at the industry, which is really important, I think.
Some good insights into the areas that are going to grow and some of the changes to trades and the trades that have evolved and some that maybe haven't and need to. And some of the areas for some of you young guys out there listening to the show as well that might want to keep your eye on if you're coming through school or university and you happen to be listening, is there some really good areas to get into and get upskilled in. So.
Yep.
So we're sitting today with Paul Hodgson from Construction Skills Queensland. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Thank you very much, Warwick.
Great to have you here. So, Paul, tell us a bit about, I guess, your background and how you came to be with CSQ, and perhaps a bit about Construction Skills Queensland as well for our listeners.
Okay, excellent. Oh, look, there's quite a journey, I guess. I've worked in government, I've run my own business, and I've worked in consulting, and I've worked in business advisory roles and across different industries, and this is probably my first time working directly in the construction industry, and I've been doing that since the beginning of last year at CSQ. My dad was a bricklayer for all of his career, so I understand what it's like to be part of a tradie family and the ups and downs of the industry, and they're not getting paid on a Friday afternoon and how that can bugger up your weekend. So all those types of things. So I'm really, and it's such an important sector that it's great to be involved in it.
Cool. I love that you come from that tradie background as well.
So I did some labouring. So I
was
did
gonna
enough
ask you that,
labouring
mate.
to keep me studying.
Yeah.
So particularly when you had 4 brickies and they were just trying to drive you as fast as they could, and you don't want to upturn a barrow of mud too often, because that really does put you behind schedule.
Yep. How many did you lose, mate?
I think I probably only lost one. I think I only
You
lost
learned your
one,
lesson after that.
Kind of a nice plank across a nice muddy kind of site and a residential build. Once it goes, she goes.
Yep. Nice work.
Well, it's good you've seen the bright side. You're in corporate now, so getting off the job site and probably save your knees. And
look, I mean, it was one of the great things was sitting back at the end of the day and seeing the tangible benefit of actually going, feeling physically tired, but actually looking and going, I actually achieved that. And a lot of careers, a lot of people don't get to see that in there. They do their job and they shuffle some paper from one side of the desk to the other and they have a few meetings. And it's very difficult to get that sense of, I've accomplished something. And you actually do really get that in building. So it was kind of a nice satisfaction at the end of the day to sort of sit back and sort of go, yep, that's where we started, that's where we finished, and it's looking good.
Cool. So tell us a little bit more about Construction Skills Queensland and what you do here.
So Construction Skills Queensland is a training fund funded through a levy. So people would know that there's Q leave, which is a portable long service leave entitlement for the Queensland industry. Along with the portable long service leave, there's a workplace health and safety levy. There's also a training levy, and we invest that training levy each year on behalf of the industry into training. And we also, so we spend a lot of time thinking about what are the skills of the future, what will the industry look like, and what does the industry do, because we know that it's very difficult for a builder to think 3, 4, 5 years ahead. Sometimes it's hard to think 3, 4, 5 months ahead. So we're doing some of that long-term thinking for the industry, so that when the builder needs a carpenter or needs a plumber or needs a concreter, we've been thinking about it and they'll be able to access them in the market.
Yeah. And where do you see the future going then for the trades? Where do you see the skills that are going to be needed going forward?
Well, I think we're seeing, so we work right across from major project engineering construction activities. So we're working with Bechtel on the LNG plants that are being constructed on Curtis Island, tunnels, bridges, roads, all that type of infrastructure, right through the commercial, so big shopping centres down to, and schools and hospitals and the like, right down to multi-unit residential and single dwellings. So right across the sectors that make up construction. And we're seeing a change at the moment. We're seeing residential change a little bit from a reliance on the single dwellings to much more sort of what you'd call commercial skills. So your steel fixing and your concreting, and you're working at heights, scaffolding, dogging, rigging, particularly around the inner city areas. And I think the thing we're always tracking as well is technology. So how does technology change? And we know that technology's always changed since the first caveman came out of the cave and went, there might be a better way. To nail guns and to off-site kitchens and bathrooms and a whole range of things. And we're seeing trends in both of those types of areas, such as more off-site work, so much more prefabrication, and we're also seeing the use of ICT, so whether it's building information modelling or even things like robotics and other tools that will be available. And hopefully that won't displace tradespeople, or just change the type of work that they do, and hopefully in some ways take the hard yakka out some of the work, and also potentially boost productivity, because if it's a rainy day you can be working in the factory or you can be working in the office, you just don't have a dead day, if you like.
I'm sure a lot of brickies would like a robot to maybe lay the bricks, and they can just
throw the bricks up.
That's it.
Bricklaying is really interesting. I mean, when I was probably earliest understanding that my dad was bricklaying, and he did it from the age of 14 or 15, got his technical certificate, and away he went. But he was building factories, and if you and in fact, I even probably in the 80s when I was late 80s when I was sort of doing some labouring for him, he was still building industrial buildings, often with blocks at that stage by then. But you would rarely see a factory now that's built with anything other than a tilt slab. But it's interesting, talking to Tony Bishop from the Australian Brick and Block Laying Training Foundation, and looking at where bricklaying's gone. It's actually gone back into a craft in some ways. So it's less of a structural trade, particularly in Queensland, but it's much more now an architectural trade. So you've got to look. If any of your listeners want to have a look at the Geary building that's been built at the University of Technology, Sydney. Bricklayers were on that building. They were laying 60 to 70 bricks a day, and I can tell you that a bricklayer out there on most sites laying 60 or 70 bricks a day wouldn't last beyond smoko. They'd have been asked to for work. They'd be asked to leave. So you can sort of see that bricklaying, and even if you go out to the display villages and the like, bricks are being used as a feature. Which is good to see, I think, from a bricklaying perspective.
Some of those old skills are coming back as being required for all the pointing and everything.
That's right.
That have probably died off a bit.
That's right.
In some respects.
Yep. And I think, you'll also get that craft-based approach in the renovations and the heritage type work. So, for example, stonemasonry. I mean, we don't build buildings with stone anymore, but there's a lot of buildings that are either being renovated or they're being done to match, or they're being used as a landscaping and an architectural feature. So there's a number of stonemasonry apprentices in Queensland at the moment. So trades don't really die out; they kind of they change.
Yep. So there's some areas you talked about, technology and some of those, I guess, growing aspects of the trades. Are there areas of opportunity because we have quite a lot of young listeners, and I was reading a tweet from somebody this morning whose partner is currently employed and looking to start his own business. Are there some areas that maybe there's some great opportunities for people who are looking to develop a trade or pick a trade?
At the moment, certainly in Queensland with the growth in residential, and it's probably the only subsector that's really growing at the moment. We are seeing areas such as bricklaying and tiling as areas of not so much skill shortage at the moment, but obviously opportunities, and it's partly because they are primarily residential trades, so they're not so much in the commercial, and they're not so much in the sort of big engineering construction projects. So we're seeing those sort of opportunities. But if there's a young person listening and they're thinking, what am I going to do with my career, then I think if you're really passionate about what you want to do and you're willing to work hard, then you can pretty much make a success of anything that you want to do. And over a career, you might go through a whole range of different parts of the industry, and the industry will change. We will be building things, I think, virtually, then we'll be building them physically, and there'll be a strong connection between off-site and on-site, and there'll also be a stronger connection between the design of buildings and the planning and development, right through to the operations and maintenance. I think there'll be a lot more seamless connection. So it's an exciting industry for a young person. And just understanding that you take control of your career and you look at it and you sort of say, well, I can't expect to have a job all the time. I have to keep reskilling, upskilling. I might need to travel, which is one of the benefits. I think if you're that sort of person, you like the variety, always working in different areas, working on different projects. You're not stuck behind the same desk, shuffling different bits of paper across. Then I think it's a fantastic opportunity. See the world and build a career.
It's really interesting because so many, trades, you think they got their ticket in their teens or early 20s and that's what they were going to do for the next 30 years. So it is really important now that they are looking at multiple skills and being able to continue to train and develop themselves so they can move with the industry trends.
That's right. So, it wasn't long ago I was talking to an apprentice, a third-year apprentice, and he was an apprentice carpenter. And he said he actually, the carpenters listening might choke on whatever they're eating or drinking, but he was saying that he was thinking in 15, 20 years a carpenter as we know it might not exist, but he was thinking that in his career, and he was going, well, I'm aware of that, but I think it's a really good trade to have, but his career will move into other things, and he's aware of that, and he's accepting of that. And I think it's really understanding that whatever you start with won't be what you end with in terms of that, and it is a really great industry to pick up different skills, and I think that actually makes you then more employable, and it probably reduces that employment risk of being in a cyclic industry as well, because if there's no work for this, I've also got a skill to be able to do that. I think that's really something that's really important for the sector.
It's a bit of that whole, debate between being a generalist and a specialist, and there's all sorts of different viewpoints, and no doubt there's both listening to our show. It really comes down to that whole thing of being trained as a way of adapting to change, and actually not just about the formal qualification, but being open to new ways of doing things. Is that where CSQ comes into it, or is that a big part of what CSQ's role is to make sure that people are able to adapt to the changing markets?
Absolutely. So we try to provide a lot of information about where the work is now and where the work is likely to go, so that people can make... So we're not going to tell an employee or a new entrant or an employer how to run their business or what to do in their career, but we can certainly provide some information which helps reduce the uncertainty about making some of those decisions. So we do a lot of analysis by region, by the type of work that's coming, and look at the supply of, say, electricians or plumbers or concreters or bricklayers, and then model out how many are going to be required and look to see whether there's a gap, and then we can identify those gaps and we can promote those gaps, which gives people an opportunity to think about that. And in terms of technology as well, so we're looking at working out, for example, at the moment we're working on building information modelling, and we're working out what are the trade skills and what's the impact going to be on a trades person. Are they going to, are they going to have to pick up some ICT skills? Is there a role that they're going to need to take on they haven't got now? And we might pilot some of those types of projects and then disseminate that information, write up a case study, put it into our magazine or on our website, or put it out somewhere so that people can access this and go, okay, so this is what building information modelling means for me. So we want to try and make it as practical as we can.
Mm-hmm.
We know that people in the industry are time poor. They don't want to read big reports. We like to do things, we've almost got a no more than 2-page type approach to it, and lots of diagrams and lots of pictures. That's the way I like to read things. And I think there's a lot of people in the industry that like to read that way as well. They don't want to go through a 100-page report and then have to read it again to work out what it meant.
Yeah, exactly.
So the information's available on your website?
So we do.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So we take an approach that we don't really, very little of what we do we want to keep secret. We're actually, we're here for the industry's benefit. And so if we know something, if we're thinking something, if we've found out something, we want to share that with the industry as much as we can. And we do that through the website. We do that through an an online magazine that we put out every two months. We're on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube. And we've now got a MyCSQ app as well, which provides information on events and also brings in some information about jobs that are available out there. I'm not quite sure where we pull that information from, but it's there.
It comes from somewhere.
It comes there. It might be Seek, or it might be, I'm not sure where it comes from, but it'll actually...
Yep.
So we know that it is a mobile industry. People are on site a lot. We think the use of smart devices, whether it's tablets or mobile phones, is really good, and it actually hopefully stops a lot of paperwork piling up on the kitchen table, where when you get home at the end of the day you really don't want to be. You want to be watching the football, you want to be out with the kids, or you want to be relaxing. You don't necessarily want to be tackling your second job.
Yeah, and that's a big message that we have on the show, is about embracing technology so you can work smarter and spend more time doing what you love. So
That's interesting too, because I was reading some stats recently about tradespeople, and I think there's a bit of a misconception that our listeners, our tradies, aren't very tech savvy and aren't using smart devices, but the stats that I were looking at actually say that trade industries have a higher take-up of particularly mobile devices than a lot of others. And we're certainly seeing that with the podcast, and g'day to everybody who's listening on their smart device at the moment, hopefully not sitting in the loo. But are you finding that with the information you're pushing out? I mean, are you seeing trades are actually quite open to the use of technology?
I think, like in any industry, there's a group of people that are really quite tech savvy, if you like, and then there's others that don't have email addresses, for example, and will tell all their apprentices not to bring their smartphone onto the site. But there was a great example. I was out at talking to one builder, and he was saying he'd taken on an apprentice. It was a tiling business. He'd come on as an apprentice tiler, and the apprentice had partially completed an ICT degree, and this apprentice tiler had looked at the tiling that was happening in a bathroom and went, well, I could write up a little app on this one which would actually tell you where all the cuts needed to be and everything, so you could actually do all that work and then just basically lay the tiles.
Yeah, right.
And the builder was like, wow, what else can you do? So it's about embracing that and looking at it, and because there's two different ways of looking at this. You can sort of see an apprentice looking at his iPhone on a job site, and you can go, he's probably on Facebook, or he's on Snapchat, or he's wasting time.
Yep. Or
you could be going, well, how could you utilise that know-how and that interest in ICT to actually make the job run better?
Yep.
And there's so many apps out there now where you can even take photos of something and email the photo, electronic invoicing. You can do all your uploading of all your accounts into Xero or something like that. But even this photo type business where you can sort of say, well, the electrician's or the plasterer has to take a photo, sends it through. The electrician goes, okay, yep, that looks okay, now I can come in, as opposed to the electrician coming in and going, well, the plasterer hasn't finished off properly, or hasn't marked out where the PowerPoints are going to go or something, and I'm going to have to go away again. All that time wasted.
Exactly.
So just the simple use of even taking a photo and emailing it and saying, hey, does that look right? Yep, okay. I know what I'm in for when I get there. I know the tools I need. I know how long I'm probably going to be there because of how it's looking. Can really maximise so much time. so they can listen to your podcast.
I know a lot of my clients, they take photos of serial numbers and keep them on records and things like that. So when clients ring up and the part's not there or whatever, they're going, yep, no worries. They have all that information stored there, ready to go.
Yeah.
Just cuts down that back and forth and, the signing on the phones and that when a job's completed or work to proceed and things like that. It's all this electronic signing and documents. Really, it's great for the industry. So hopefully you're going to bring out more trades that have an ICT degree as well as a trade degree.
And I think there's
got to be something in that. Yeah.
One of the things I want to really, would love to see is this sort of breakdown of, and I think what's going to happen is a sort of merging of trades and the sort of professional type stuff, so the ICT and the engineers and everything. So I think you're going to get a lot of people that actually have a bit of both.
Yep.
Because you'll be working on site, you'll be working off site, you might be working in a virtual environment. And so I think the future for the trades is actually going to be the trade skills are critical, but there'll be a whole bunch of ICT, business skills, and other types of skills that you'll need to have as well to be successful as a tradesperson.
Yeah.
I want to raise a point which might be a little contentious and putting you on the spot here. I had a conversation with a tradie recently about some of the training that RTOs are delivering, and he was probably a bit dirty on the whole thing and just saying that they're just rubber stamping guys that either already know what they're doing or there's going to be this crop of people coming through who are really just being shuffled through, getting a piece of paper that says they're a qualified tradesperson, getting a licence, and that's going to create all these problems in the industry. What would you say to that sort of attitude from, I guess, old school tradies in that respect?
Look, I mean, there are examples, as there would be in any industry, of RTOs that are probably, if you like, just cranking the handle and putting people through and collecting money for training places. We do a lot of work to look at the quality of the training that we procure. And so that, if anyone's kind of not delivering very well, they've got no chance of getting another contract, and we can cut a contract. But the other thing I'd say, though, is that if the RTOs are there doing the training for industry, then it's really for industry to actually drive that and for industry to take responsibility and say to those RTOs, well, look, you're not delivering, therefore I'm not going to work with you. And some of the major industry players actually set up their own enterprise-based RTO. So I'd say, and the industry associations, Master Builders, HIA, they run their own RTOs as well. So there is an industry involvement. So it's, look at it. If the trainer isn't doing a good job, they're a service provider to you, then you go and get another trainer.
Yep.
Or you set up your own training business, get a number of builders together, or go and talk to the Master Builders or HIA and say, hey, look, this isn't working. How can we get a better result here? So don't just take whatever training's sending your way, is what I'd say. And when we look at apprentices and trainees, and we know how important it is for people to be getting skills on the job, you actually need to invest as well, if you're a business, in doing that, because most of the learning won't happen at the RTO. It won't happen in the classroom. It'll happen on the job site. And so industry's got quite a responsibility for making sure that those people coming through with the skills have got the right skills at the right level to actually deliver the outcome.
It's the old thing of taking the theory and learning how to apply it in the real world.
Yeah. So, I mean, if I was, if I didn't like my bank, for example, because I didn't like the service, if I just sat and whinged about my bank, well, I'd go and find another bank.
And then you could whinge about them as well. Because
well, you might.
Banks out there.
Well, and bank, was just an example. But if a builder's not very happy with the trainer, they maybe come and talk to CSQ, go and talk to others, go and talk to other builders about where are the good trainers, and actually what you'll do then is the good trainers will rise up through the ranks, right? Because they get the work.
Yeah.
But if, like anything, if you put up with a poor service, then all you do is you keep those poor service providers in business.
Yep. So what are some of the other services that Construction Skills Queensland actually provide? We've talked a lot about training, obviously, Paul, but are there some other things that our listeners can go and access that you can help them to run their business?
Yeah, sure. So we do a lot of, we get involved with a lot of partner organisations, and I talk about the Master Builders Association, HIA, a lot of the trade associations, and the like. We work closely with government, so we advocate on behalf of the industry to state and federal government in terms of policy, whether it's training policy or construction policy. We take that type of role. We also provide a lot of evidence and data out through, and case studies and stories out to industry so that they can be informed about what's going on. We use that obviously to make our own investment decisions. And we also then work with, we're working in some Indigenous communities, looking at how we can create local careers for people, and we work with major project proponents. Now, one of the things that's important to note on major projects is that, if you're building a hospital and it's a $1.5 billion hospital, there's a great opportunity for us to train up tradespeople for the industry. So we're not doing it just for that job. We're actually doing it for the industry. We know that, if this project's going to take 4 years and it's going to employ 4,000 people, for example, and we can train up 1,000 new entrants or 500 new entrants, get them up into the industry, then all of those people, when that job finishes, will be available for every builder across the state. So we see it as a really good leverage point to kind of grow the talent pool, if you like, for the industry. We know it's very difficult for each builder to make that decision on behalf of the industry because you don't know what you're going to be doing in 3 or 4 years. It's a hard investment to take. You might not have the breadth of work or the depth of work to keep someone busy. So taking those big opportunities, these big projects, we can actually train up, and then they're available, because we don't expect each builder to go and take on an apprentice. Great if you do, and thanks for those that do. But we also know that a lot of builders go, I want a carpenter, so they want to go out and find a carpenter. They don't want to go and talk to a school and find out if in 2 or 3 years there's going to be a nice carpentry apprentice. They're not. The nature of business is, right now. You're not thinking 5 or 6 years for your carpenter. You're thinking, can I find one today?
Yeah. And it's a big complaint from our listeners, and certainly my clients that I work with, my tradie clients, is can't get good staff. And it's probably a complaint from every industry, but trying to find those suitably qualified or experienced people is a big challenge. So
it is, and it particularly is if you're working on a project basis. So one of the things I'd encourage anyone working in the sector to do is to try and think. You don't have to think a lot out beyond the project, but if you think about learning in the project, what are you good at? What did you enjoy doing? What could we do more of, and who would we do more of that with? Then you can start actually piecing together those projects into much more of a business plan. And if you've got a sense of what you do well and who complements you, so you work with that supplier and that supplier and that supplier, and almost you go as a gang, as a team, and here's your market, and you go out there and you're going to be selling into that market, then it makes it a lot easier to invest in your people, because you're actually thinking, well, I'm going to try and find 3 or 4 carpenters, a couple of plumbers and an electrician, and I want them on all those jobs all the way through. And therefore investing in their training and investing in their welfare is actually really good, because they're going to help me build my business. But if it's just I'm building this house, it's going to take 14 weeks, therefore I just need someone for that, and then next house I build, I'm out looking for someone else. That's a very hard way to run a business.
Yep, we would agree.
Yes. So one thing we like to ask all our guests, if you had 1,000 tradies in the room, what would be some piece of business advice that you'd like to share with them?
Well, I would say sharing is probably the word. I would say if there's 1,000 in the room, I would say have a look around that room and actually look at the people that you could work with to actually make your job a lot easier. So I think the way that all industries often go is that, if you've got a critical mass, then you can get some of the bigger work, you might be able to get some of the longer work, but it also potentially smooths out some of those cycles. So if you're competing with the person sitting next to you in that room of 1,000 tradies, it's going to be very difficult, because it's win-lose. They'll win the work, means you haven't got the work. But if you're working together, then, if he picks up the work or you pick up the work, it doesn't really matter. We can kind of share resources, and it also means you share the business activity statement stuff, you share a whole range of other stuff. So collaborating across the industry. I mean, there's 85,000 in Queensland ABNs, a lot of them independent contractors. I think 87% of them have got less than $500,000 turnover. It's very fractured, which means all those people are all running their own business. Even if it's just you're still running your business. You're still going to look after all that paperwork. I'd say look around that room and go, let's see if there's a better way of doing this.
Yep. Great advice.
Yeah, it was a great phrase I heard coined, or a word of co-opetition years ago, of kind of finding ways to work with who we perceive as our competition, and whether it's partnerships or cross-referrals or whatever it might be, just to leverage each other's skills and experience. So
that's right.
It's a great point.
So the builder across the road from you might not be your arch competitor. You might think about what they do well and what you do well, and whether you could collaborate, because your biggest competitor might be a manufacturing company that's going to start just trucking in prefabricated homes.
Yeah, get blindsided by that.
And that's right. And so you're busy struggling and competing at that micro level, but someone's coming over the top of you.
Yeah,
awesome.
Great advice.
Good advice.
Well, thanks so much for your time today, Paul. How can people find out more about Construction Skills Queensland?
So heading to the website's probably the best place.
Yep.
And given people are listening to this on a podcast, they should be able to find a website, and it's really easy. It's csq.org.au.
Excellent.
And that provides a lot of information. But as I said, we're across social media. We also have a call centre and the like. So there's lots of different ways to get hold of us, and we're happy to talk.
Great. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks again for your time today, Paul.
Thanks, Warwick. Thanks, Michaela.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Got a question you want answered on the show? Go to tradiesbusinessshow.com.
So there you go. Great interview with Paul Hodgson from Construction Skills Queensland. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? No wonder they call it CSQ.
Yep.
But great to hear from a brickie too. We haven't had a brickie on the show yet.
No.
Brickie's labourer. I thought that was a dying trade. But some good insights there. Anything you want to add, Michaela? Do you want to have a say?
Well, I just think I really like the collaboration approach of the advice that he's given to the industry, like not looking at your other competitors as competitors, but as people you can join together to take on bigger jobs or improve the industry. So I think that's a really, really key point.
Yeah, I think we can really put our heads together as an industry and do a much better job than we do of playing off each other's strengths.
Yep.
So good points in there.
So head to tradiesbusinessshow.com and you'll find out all the information there. We hope to see you in the community.
Great. Until next time.
Bye.
Hooroo.
You've been listening to the Tradies Business Show with Warwick Bidwell and Michaela Clark. Want to get off the tools and into true business ownership? Find out how at tradiesbusinessshow.com.